What's up, everyone? Welcome to the North Leeds Jitz podcast. Today on the show, joined by Livia, Giles, who we were trying to get on the podcast for a little while, and then you were recommended to come on by Vanessa English, who we interviewed. She recommended you as someone we should reach out to, and got a great story to tell. And then I think it was you were about to have a baby, and then we got COVID, and then we wanted to leave it a little while so you could settle into family life, and then everything kicks off, and here we are. Thanks so much for doing this, Professor. It's a real pleasure. And how are you today? Everything going well?
Yeah, it's a busy day as always. Just put the bub to sleep actually probably an hour ago. And I don't know, training, coaching, and just with the baby. So it's a little bit busier.
Of course. How is life with the baby? Is everything going good? Life as a new mum?
We're pretty lucky. He's a super chill, smiley baby most of the time, not all the time. But it is good. It's different. Like, I miss sleep, even though he's a pretty good sleeper. You know, it's
right.
Like the sleep deprivation is real. And yeah, look, I'm back training and coaching. I wouldn't say as normal because I just don't have 5 hours a day to train anymore.
Right.
And yeah, it's a little bit harder to train us hard and recover. But besides that, life kind of goes on nearly as normal. Yeah.
Is there anything in particular you do to change your training when you are sleep deprived? Is there any tricks you've got or anything you'll use?
Really, I'm just a lot worse. When I'm sleep deprived, I just don't roll well,
Right.
It's like for anyone else, really. If you don't get, my reaction is really slow and my pattern recognition is slow and I can't focus as well. But I guess I just don't roll as hard. I like to be technical, but I also don't mind a bit of pohada here and there. But since having the baby, that's been harder to do. I have to be really mindful for injuries and not putting load on my body for every training session. So I have to be really mindful how I roll and avoid certain positions. So I have to give some things up a little bit more and let go of my ego.
Yeah. And you trained, I'm not sure if you're doing jiu-jitsu, but you definitely kept your strength training up throughout your pregnancy, right?
Yeah, I did. So I did, jiu-jitsu till about 34 weeks. I kept teaching, I think, till about 32 weeks from memory, or 33 weeks. But when I say rolling, I had a group of girls and some guys that I felt really confident and comfortable with, that were very careful, and they knew, like, the advanced belts, because the biggest thing, sorry, that's my washing machine going crazy. Sounds awesome. Hey, can you move those glasses? Just Lockie can be my slave. So when I say rolling, I probably rolled close to normally till about 20 weeks or so. And then I had to do less guard and less using my abs, basically, less intense stuff, just with people I trusted. And then when my belly got really big, I just stayed on top and worked a lot of my passing game, and we just did it slow, So I trained with the girls that I trusted, that I knew what reactions they were going to give me. So no one really too new, because they kind of can do unexpected reactions, which can be dangerous. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, it's just annoying for my training partners because they really can't do anything. It was more, for me, and I felt bad. And also, if I fell, like if there was a bit of sweat on the mat and I fell on someone's knee, that was going to be dangerous. In terms of weights, I did like 100-kilo deadlift, I think, when I was 36 weeks.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, and it felt really easy. It was really bizarre. Like, I kept getting stronger, but it was easy. Maybe because I was bigger, maybe because I wasn't so fatigued doing jiu-jitsu. And that was obviously all with my obstetrician's blessing. I mean, I'm not sure that he was too happy with the 100-kilo deadlift, but
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what were your doctors saying? They must have been a bit surprised. I'm not sure
I
if
think,
they've.
I mean, the biggest things were not increasing my heart rate too much, which lifting weight wasn't too bad. I definitely had to, I did a bit of Muay Thai to keep fit, and my heart rate got way too high. So I had to drop that. My heart rate would get really hard just walking. So I had to stop running as well. But weights, my heart rate was fine, but I had to be really careful not to overuse my abs, not to do like Valsalva maneuver. So like brace when I lift, just because that can stop or reduce the blood flow to the placenta, which can be dangerous for the baby. So I had to, everything that I was lifting had to be very controlled, just breathing naturally, no bracing and so on. What else did I, and going heavy can have implications to like the fascia around your pelvic floor and so on. So that was probably one thing I had to watch. But I guess there's I'm a pretty experienced athlete, and I've been an athlete for many years. And I felt safe, and I felt like I trusted my body, but I probably wouldn't recommend the same thing to someone who's just started exercise or just started jiu-jitsu.
Right, yeah, I was going to ask if you had any particular advice for women that maybe are quite keen on jiu-jitsu but might want to continue training.
Yeah, look, I think it's really hard to give advice, because I'm a physiotherapist, but I'm not a women's health specialist. I'm not an obstetrician. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a midwife. And what works for me and the advice I've gotten can be quite dangerous to other people.
Right.
So I've really stayed away from giving too much advice, apart from like the general things that my doctor told me, which is the like overusing your abs, obviously no impact, no hard falls, just so your fetus or the placenta doesn't like rip out essentially. So I was really careful not to wrestle, not to fall hard, that sort of stuff. Your heart rate, heat, or overheating as well. So the general stuff. For me personally, moving made me feel so much better than not doing exercise. And I know it's opposite to some other women that are pregnant. So I think it's a really individual thing. And I think it really depends how long you've been training for, how aware you are of your body, what training partners you have. Like if I had all 80-kilo men that were white belts, I wouldn't go anywhere near it, just because no one means to hurt you. But I don't think some people have enough control. So I was very picky with who I chose to train with. So yeah, I did have throughout my pregnancy, I think there was a lot of other sort of pandemic babies around, the black belt, brown belt girls around the world. So we all had a bit of a, chat on social media going, and sort of checking in with each other. And we're all doing very similar things, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah, I remember Professor Vanessa telling us about that. Like a lot of the big names in the women's jiu-jitsu world were having kids around the same time, which she was like, oh, in like 18 years from now, there's just going to be a crazy amount of people in the adults division.
Yeah, it's scary. Or they will just hate jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. The whole generation just like, I'm sick of this jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly.
So to take me back, when was your first experience of martial arts?
So that would be probably about 12 years ago. I was a gymnast for many years. Then I retired at 18, and I took up trek cycling, trek sprinting. And I did that for about 6 years, and I didn't quite get the results I wanted, which was like national team, going to Worlds and Olympics, and I just was never fast enough. So I decided to get a real job and real life and be an adult and go to university, where I did science and then physiotherapy degree. And then I thought, because I get really obsessed with, especially with sport, so I thought, I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to, be normal. And I think I went to do like a little bit of Muay Thai with my brother at a local gym. And around the same time I met Lachlan, we were doing physiotherapy together for a football team, and he was doing jiu-jitsu, and I had no idea what it was. And he was kind of going like, look up UFC 1, and I didn't know what UFC was. So I looked up UFC 1, and I really didn't understand what he was saying. I was like, what am I looking at? Like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't know that jiu-jitsu was the ground game, or that it was superior to other martial arts. But yeah, so I ended up doing a bit of Muay Thai at a local club, and I just didn't understand shadow boxing. It sounded quite boring. And then they were doing a bit of jiu-jitsu. So I heard it from Lachlan, and there was another girl who was training, and we ended up jumping into a class, and it was really fun. I was one of those annoying people who giggled for the entire first two classes, probably
Yeah.
because I was nervous. I have no idea. Uh,
Sorry,
I thought it was fun.
Okay, so you were telling me a little bit about yeah, giggling when you first started rolling.
Yeah. I think it was actually, I didn't know it was, bad. I just thought I was having lots of fun till I think I
Yeah.
told Lockie, I was like, oh, it was so much fun. I just like laughed the whole class. And he was like, oh no, you're one of those annoying people. I stopped. I'm pretty sure it's a nervous thing. I have no idea. Yeah. And then I think after about 2 weeks of training, I went to Brazil for a holiday with my sister, and I decided it was a good idea to like do jiu-jitsu in Brazil. So
Yeah.
I went to Checkmat as a 2-week old white belt, and it was really fun actually. Everyone was really helpful, and I just came home and never really stopped since then.
Amazing. So when you were young, it sounds like you were always kind of a bit of a natural athlete, was it? Was that like a family thing or?
I wouldn't say I was a natural, but it's always something I really wanted to do. So I honestly wouldn't say that I've done, well, 3 sports at a high level, but I wouldn't say I'm like exceptional at any of them. I just have the ability to work really hard. Maybe I'm a bit of a psycho, not always smart, just hard. Um, I don't know, my mum was a swimmer, but it was never really pushed in our family. I did gymnastics for like 15 years or something, or 20 years when I was,
Wow.
15 years when I was younger at a high level in Poland and in Australia. And then I quit that, and then I did trek cycling because the physiotherapist at the time told me I would be well suited, fast twitch fibers and so on, to sprinting. So I gave that a go, and then jiu-jitsu wasn't meant to be a competitive sport for me. It was just something to do, and a community and all of that. But yeah, it's by far been my most fun thing that I've ever done, and time consuming, and I guess changed our lives completely as well, which is really cool.
I often hear like parents talking about gymnastics being a great base, and that's why they want for athleticism, and
Yeah.
for that's where they often want their kids to get into it young. Have you found like your gymnastics base being like a the other sports you got into?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think gymnastics is a really good base sport. I wouldn't recommend it at the elite level unless the culture changes.
Right.
Yeah, I did rhythmic gymnastics, so like the one with like ribbon and balls, they're like sort of pretty prancy stuff. So I would assume that like artistic gymnastics, which is more like the flips and strength-based stuff and spatial awareness-based stuff, would be a better base for most sports. But I think definitely like discipline and giving me ability to um, learn, and spatial awareness, and like just knowing my body a bit more, and coordination, definitely, and also like competing and knowing how to deal with nerves and uncomfortable situations and endurance, all of that. I think it's fantastic, but I wouldn't recommend it at the elite level.
Right. Do you think you'll get your little one into gymnastics, or will it go straight to jiu-jitsu?
I have no idea. I think I mean, speaking from like evidence-based type stuff with kids and sport, is you want to expose your kid to as many different sports and different things before the age of 10. I think the brain development is like the most malleable until then. So you want something with coordination and some like team sports. And ideally, I would love him to do jiu-jitsu, or at least do jiu-jitsu, and then maybe he could pick another activity every term. Whether it's gymnastics or something else, and jiu-jitsu is something we do as a family. But honestly, like I have no idea what my kid will want to do, and it's probably not something I'm going to force him into, but I would
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, yeah.
I was going to ask, because some parents are like, I'm going to force you to do jiu-jitsu until like a certain age, and then you can decide. Almost like I want you to at least be able to defend yourself for a certain amount of
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Do you agree with that, or do you think you can't really force them to do things?
I would struggle to force a kid to do well, if they really hated jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
I think I would struggle to force them, only because if you're not enjoying something and you're forced to do it, I don't think you learn it well, and I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to enjoy it and stick at it, whereas when it's your choice, I guess it's like with adults, like self-learning type stuff is you learn better. But in saying that, if they're just kind of like, oh, I can't be bothered going today because I'm whatever, tired or hungry, then I would encourage them to keep going. But it's really hard to say, because I have, you have all these ideas as a parent, and I'm a very young parent, as in I'm not young, I'm a new parent. And it's already all changed, So I have no idea what I'll be like in 4 or 5 years' time when he'll have a chance to do an activity.
And nowadays, do you teach much at the academy?
Yeah, not as much as before, but I teach the kids, and I teach our intro program at the moment. Teaching more classes late at night gets a little bit tricky, just because I have to put the little one to bed. So I'm still teaching nearly every day, usually 2 classes a day. But yeah, it's not as much as it was before. So I train once a day, and then I teach at night.
How do you find teaching the kids' classes, and which is your favorite age to teach?
I've actually been really enjoying teaching the 5 to 8-year-olds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I didn't think at the start, but it's just seeing like that progression, especially when the little timid, unconfident kids come in, and then a month later they get, they just stand differently, and they're able to like push someone back, and they're able to do a break fall and do a takedown, and then a new kid comes along, and they can help them learn, and they can be a good training partner, or they can actually do a skill, inspiring on someone else. And I think the confidence really grows.
Yeah.
It's probably also the most crazy age group, where when they're tired, they're absolutely bonkers, and it's really hard to control them. But I find it really rewarding, and they're really cute. Like, they'll just say the cutest.
Yeah.
They're really honest and cute. But I don't know, I enjoy all of them. The slightly older ones, it's different, I guess, different obstacles. Like, you have the preteens that, starting to roll their eyes and talk back, and being smart, and it's that fine line between being a friend and a bad cop coach, which I don't mind playing from time to time. Yeah, and the same with teens, they got to really like it. And I think the hardest thing is letting them have a lot of fun and knowing where to draw the line as well.
Right. I think what you said there is really interesting. I think for us, we break it down to like 3 and 4 year old, and the next class is like 5 to 7s. But I think that class is the most difficult. But then when you said that, I think, oh yeah, it is actually one of the most rewarding classes, because like you say, when you see one of those kids become, because the 3 and 4s, it's a lot of games, it's a little bit of technique, but we do actual technique with the 5 to 7 year olds. So when you see those guys really progress, and they do stand up taller, or you see one of them more experienced students helping the less new trial person come in, it's like, oh wow, like this person's like really grown as a person, not just like, and they're still so young, so it's like unexpected.
I think what always gets me with that, even when they're like 6, is if they're a little bit bigger or stronger, and a new kid comes, and I'll go, we're doing some takedowns or some sparring, and I'll go, can you look after them, because it's the first time, or like, you're the senior now, can you let them play a little bit? And they actually let the little kid take them down, and I think that's like more mature than some adults, and I'm like always so impressed with that.
Right.
They'll actually do it, and they love it, and I think it's actually amazing that they understand that early. Yeah.
That's amazing. What age do you start teaching submissions there?
Yeah, the $1 million questions, huh? We do start. Look, I do it in the 5 to 7 year old. We do start at 5. Some kids are 4.5, So I don't usually go with subs at the start of the year, but we do teach them an armbar and we teach them a rear naked choke, but it's more about knowing how to tap and more knowing what it feels like.
Right.
Armbar, I sort of get them to practice a little bit more, and we teach them like Americana for mount. And they can't really, like, they're sort of too small, the 5-year-olds anyway, they can't really hurt each other. But we do teach them more about the tapping and the control, and that it's on person putting the submission on to let go. And but the more I've been sort of traveling around the world, and I ask that question all the time, and everyone has completely different answers. You know, some people start subs from 5-year-olds and they just rep out arm bars, triangles, and some don't add submissions till the kids are about 8. What do you guys do?
We wait till 8. The actual like Gracie Barra kind of guideline is 7.
Yeah.
But just because the way we structure our classes, like the 5 and 7-year-olds are together, so we just wait till they're 8. But again, we're a pretty new school. We've only been open for in-person classes since last April. So we don't have many like advanced kind of kids yet. So I'm maybe like later down the line when we've got grey belts and yellow belts and we're doing like advanced kind of kids classes, maybe then I think we'd probably incorporate it.
What I find tricky is because I'm kind of the same idea, but then kids want to compete, and when they're like 6 or 7 and they want to jump into competition and submissions, and some clubs, like we have, some of the competitors, they literally like, it's really interesting. Some clubs just rotate through like armbar, double leg takedown, sprawl off a double to the back, rear naked choke, and that's like the entire game plan. And they're very good at armbars and chokes, and so if the kids are not exposed to it at all, that's and not everyone wants to compete at that age. We don't really encourage it actually, but
I find it's difficult when one of the kids in the 5 to 7-year-old has an older brother or sister in the older class, and they're going to compete, and they're like, "Well, I want to compete," and like, sorry, the competition kind of class is like, we're only like, can I come to competing class? And like, oh, well, that's for 8-year-olds and above, and it's like, it's tough because they don't get a lot of sparring and stuff.
It is hard. The age is different, and some 5-year-olds are massive and 8-year-olds are tiny, and
it's a tough one. Do you guys have a big kind of kids competition presence there over at Absolute?
Not really, actually. It's probably something that's the next goal to build up. Traditionally, it's been, well, we're also just getting back to normal after COVID lockdown. Of course, It's been really hard with the kids. But no, like we haven't had a massive kids program, and it's only now, like after COVID, we renovated our gym, so it's like really presentable now, and it's, I think, run a lot better. And now I think is the time to really grow the kids program, because the focus has been on adults for quite a while, but we haven't really encouraged competition with the kids. And I think to do that, we have to do like in-house competitions to get them used to it or get them excited about it.
Yeah.
And B, having the teens probably more train with adults and getting excited about training with maybe older, more experienced grapplers as well, so they see what it can be like.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Obviously, like, we're trying to look towards that as well in the future as the school becomes more mature. And it's just nice to hear how other people are planning to do it and take guidance from other people. Tell me a bit about your own jiu-jitsu journey. Like, when did you know that you wanted to start competing? How did you advance through the belt structure and all that kind of traditional stories we get?
When did I? Well, I said I would never compete because I get obsessed, and then I competed. I think like 3 months. 3 months after I started. I remember my first competition. I was in the girls' closed guard, and like I had no idea what to do. And we heard a coach say cross collar choke, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she was like, "Is that to you or to me?" I'm like, "No." So we both tried to cross collar choke each other. I was really bad. And then from then, I don't know, I just found that I guess like I've always been really competitive. So I found it, I don't actually know if I love competing, but I love the process of preparing, getting ready, having the whole team there, all that sort of stuff. The actual, paying money to get really nervous on the day, I don't think it's that much fun, honestly. But yeah, the whole process and the losses and the wins and everything that comes with it. I got my blue belt very early, like after about a year. And I wasn't very good at all. Like I remember when I started to train more and more under Lockie, he was like, because I really wanted to go to World Championships as a blue belt, and he was like, cool, so maybe you should learn a guard, like just one. And anyway, I went like after a year, and then I remember, I think it was like second round, I got submitted pretty quickly, but I swept the girl and then she submitted me. And in my head, I was like, I just swept the world champion because she won the division. I was like,
Oh,
I can do this.
Yeah.
I swept her, like completely ignored the submission part. And I got off the mats and I was like, I'm going to win it next year because I swept this girl. But I did.
Nice.
We came home and we made a plan, and I worked really, really hard, and like I drilled and specific trained like 2 hours 3 times a week before every single class.
Wow.
And I had like this entire plan that Lockie made for me that took me from the day we got back from Worlds until the next Worlds. And
Amazing.
yeah, it was really cool because the plan, like I had like 6 rounds and I didn't have 1 point scored against me, and I won the whole thing. And I was like, that, like it actually worked, like doing like technique and repeating it and having a plan worked. I think I pretty much won the entire thing with single leg X. This shows how much has jiu-jitsu has come now, because that, like, no one really knew how to defend it at blue belt back in the day, whereas
Yeah.
now, like, if I do single leg X, I get berimboloed, so I don't really do it. So yeah, it's come a long way. I think I probably wouldn't get very far if I was the same level in today's blue belt division. But
That's an amazing amount of discipline and almost like a skill in a way, right? To be that prepared for something, to have a plan laid out for an entire year and then stick to that plan. Is that something that came naturally to you, or is that from your sporting background? Or
I mean, the plan came from Lockie, so he sat down and sort of worked it out with me, and we sort of worked out like, right, my entire game was single leg X, but we sort of started off with that, and then we thought, okay, so how over a year I need to, whatever guard I'm find myself in, I need to find a way back to single leg X. So like I practiced everything else, left, right, top and bottom. So passing every guard, I was working as well. And I did a lot of specific training. So when I have something written out and I trust the process, I'm like, I'll do it. I'm super committed. I'm super dedicated. And I guess I'm a pretty coachable athlete, where if I commit to something, I don't have a problem doing it. I enjoy that. Yeah. I guess because it worked, it reinforced that, having a process and a plan usually pays off. And not just going like, oh, I'm going to pass the guard. Like, how are you breaking the grip? Where's your step? Where, every little grip matters in jiu-jitsu.
that
Yeah.
must be a great story to tell your own students though as well. Like, set a goal and then make all these like smaller steps on how to achieve that goal. It's great to have like that personal story to be able to share to them as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, look, there's a lot more things that come into winning a major competition as well. Like, I think that day, like, I had no injuries. I was feeling really good. I was on weight relatively easily. I might have had good refs. I had maybe the right bracket. Like, there's all these things that just came together. And it's not always like, because we do have people who are really committed and they drill and they try and they specific train and they do the right things, and they'll probably never be a world champion at any belt, and it doesn't mean that they're really not everyone's going to be, it's like one person in the world that gets to be a world champ every year in every division. So sometimes it's just like you lose by a ref's decision first round and that's it, but yeah, I guess like if you do have a plan and a process, I think you're halfway, like you're already better than 50% of people out there just training with no set goal. We've continued that till now. I still do the same thing. It's just a lot more detailed, I guess, or like I'm working on little details every day rather than maybe learning a whole new guard or Actually, no, I still learn a whole new system, whole new guard. So I keep doing that. That's what keeps me in the sport, really.
Yeah, the constant kind of learning. I keep
Yeah.
asking all these like legendary professors, like, oh, do you still feel like a student of jiu-jitsu, or do you feel like more like a teacher? And I've just stopped asking it now because they're all like, I'm a student still, like I still learn every day, you
Yeah,
know.
everyone says that. I mean, I guess like I don't teach as much as like head coaches, I guess, but I think a lot of people that are head coaches like miss being the student a lot, you know. But I guess that's where the self-learning comes in. You have to be pretty self-sufficient at
Yeah.
finding your information.
Yeah, I'm only a purple belt, and I'm struggling with that now because it's just me and Professor Mike that's running this now 400 person plus school, and and there's just like no time for myself to do classes. So all my learning is BJJ for Nikes, and then try it out on a white belt in live training, and it's a difficult way to learn sometimes.
It is. It's hard. It's hard, but I don't know. It's doable.
Yeah, it's carry on though. We've only got to you winning. You know, you've accomplished a lot more as well since the Blue Belt World Championship.
So then I got my purple belt, and then I won Nogi Worlds like 3 months after getting after winning Blue Belt Gi Worlds. Which I don't know, I think Blue Belt Gi Worlds felt a lot harder because there was like 6 rounds and a lot more girls. And I think back then no-gi wasn't as strong, but because after winning Blue Belt Worlds, I was like, I don't have to do anything else in jiu-jitsu. I'm just like a old girl from Australia. I think I won Blue Belt Worlds at 27 or 28, you know, and I just started sport at like 26 or at the end of when I was 26. So to me, that was already a really big accomplishment because I was fighting like 18-year-olds back then. I still am.
Yeah.
And I thought I don't ever have to compete again. Like no one will take this away from me. And then obviously like, you know, a day later, I'm like, I want to do the next thing. If I can win it at blue, I can win it at purple and brown and black. So after I won the Nogi Worlds, we went to Brazil for 6 months. And we ended up training at Alliance in Sao Paulo for most of that time. We traveled around quite a lot, but we went to like Cicero's and we competed a lot. And that was, you know, I was like, oh, everyone like purple belt, everyone's technical now. Like I can't just win with the one move. I have to actually be a well-rounded fighter. So Brazil was tough. Like sometimes there was 60 people on the mat in the pro training class and I was the only female plus Gabby Garcia and like there would be like 25 black belts on the mat. And I remember one day like we were getting ready for Brasileiros and it was like specific training, King of the Hill or whatever, you know, if you win, you stay in. So I would wait because it was like all black belts trying to get ready for Worlds and Brasileiros, and I would like wait half an hour in line, then I would come out, shake hands, and then like someone would sweep me back off the line and I was like, oh. And I think we even said to Fabio, there was another lady there and we said it was a 2-hour training session and we were in like 3 times for 10 seconds and he's like, get better at jiu-jitsu, then he'll stay for longer. I'm like, okay.
How? I have no time to train.
Fair enough. I mean, he's not wrong, right? So that Brazil was tough, but it was really good. Then when we came back, Lockie and I opened a gym. So we were part of Absolute. We opened our own gym and started running the academy. And then I just continued to compete. And I think, I don't know, when was the next big accomplishment? Like, you know, I've done like minor comps. And then for brown belt worlds, I decided to cut to rooster weight, which was, I won't do that again. So I usually sit at around, I don't know, 55 kilos. And then it's not hard for me to drop weight. I get lean very quickly, but I thought if I can eat like pizza and ice cream and be 53 kilos, I can drop to 47 pretty quickly.
Mm.
Yeah, I did it, but it was, you know, what was the cost? And the cost was me being an asshole and not very nice, and training was extremely difficult. Yeah. But again, I happened to win, which reinforces the weight cutting thing.
Right.
And then I did it again for like World Pro, but that's a little bit different because it's 24-hour weigh-in, right? So you can
Right.
rehydrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started, like, I won a few things at Brown Black at World Pro. I think I got silver one year. And then I got my black belt. What did I do at black belt? I lost a world's medal to Vanessa English at Europeans. We're in the final, and then she beat me by an advantage at Worlds for a medal, and that was an awesome fight. And that's when we like became really good friends.
All right, nice.
Because I was like, hey, like we roll really well. Like it was a war, you know. And so since then, yeah, we message each other quite a lot, and she's awesome.
That's good.
But yeah, I don't know. I medaled at Nogi Worlds, and then ADCC trials was a big one for me because that's something I've been trying to win for a really long time. And I came second a few times and I lost a few times, and I finally won it after being really, really injured. So that was a big standout in my career, even though it's not like the biggest thing. It was just
That's
a
amazing
big
achievement.
goal. Yeah. And then I got choked at ADCC. So
don't worry, a lot of people do, right? And a lot of people can't get there. So you kind of quickly breezed over it, but tell me about getting your black belt. What was that like?
Yeah, it was, I don't know, slightly surprising, I guess.
Did you expect it on the day, or did you kind of notice something? Right.
No, I didn't. So it was a complete surprise. And it was like, I think it was about 3 weeks before World Championship. So I won brown belt worlds, and I was like kind of going like, and Lockie kept saying all year, like, I would like you to win it at your own weight, not cutting to a ridiculous weight. And I was like, oh, so the whole time I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to win it again. Like, it was just like, I already did it. And it was just like this pressure thing. He's like, yeah, but do it at a normal weight, right? Yeah. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to try to do it again, but at live size. So yeah, I didn't expect it at all. He's traditionally been, you know, I guess because he's my partner, like he hasn't been just giving me the belts too quickly as well. And I just came from work. I remember I ate a lot of cake that day because it was someone's birthday. So I felt really sick.
Nice.
And I was late. And then I turned up to training, and like he invited all the black belts that have been, I guess, a part of my journey in Melbourne, like so all the coaches from different academies that we've cross-trained, and my friends as well, the girls as well. So it was a lot of brown and black belt guys and instructors and professors and ladies. And I think I just like rolled with everyone for a minute, and everyone was being really nice. And then it was nice speeches, and it was a complete surprise. But then, yeah, it was like, oh, I'm doing worlds at black belt with
the realization, like 3 weeks
notice. Yeah. So, but it was a really cool day, and was completely unexpected. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, you walk into the academy, and then it's like all your old training partners, all your friends are like, what's going on here?
Yeah, but by that time I was like, oh, I think this is for me. Yeah, but it was like so nice to share it with everyone as well.
That's awesome. So do you predominantly train no-gi now, or do you still mix it up with the gi?
Yeah. Look, my entire career, even maybe like 4 months before ADCC, I really just did no-gi, but the entire time I stayed gi and no-gi pretty much even, because a really big goal of mine was to medal at black belt at IBJJF gi worlds. Because I think apart from like competing at ADCC or medaling at ADCC, that's probably the hardest thing to do is gi worlds, because it's just such a strategy sort of game, right? It's not just, well, everything is hard, but gi especially, it's all advantages and it's a game as well. So I kept always training gi as well. But during the pandemic and during the pro sessions, some of us, like the black belts, were allowed to train. We were all just doing no gi. And honestly, now I hardly train in the gi. Like I still put it on for teaching and I do a few rolls, but my no-gi game is much, much, much better than my gi game at this stage. It is nice on my body too. I recover a lot quicker doing no-gi, just because my hands don't hurt as much, my fingers are not as deformed, like my rings fit again. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was I did a podcast last weekend with Ricky, who's a coach at Gracie Baja Bondi, and he's been getting a lot more into no-gi now, and I think he's coming down to train with you guys soon.
Awesome.
But one of the reasons he said was like because just of the instruction in no-gi right now is way better than that he can get his hands on, is way better than the gi stuff he can get his hands on. So like Lachlan stuff, like Danaher's stuff, all that stuff. It's very accessible, where there isn't quite the same level in the gi at the moment.
Yeah, actually, you're right. I never thought about it, but I would say you're right.
Another thing I've noticed, I think the marketing around no-gi is a lot better than the gi.
Yes, marketing is better, but I honestly, like through traveling, especially in America, majority of, well, actually, I don't know if it's majority, it's maybe who we attract as well, but there's a big focus on no-gi at the moment. I think it's just more accessible to most people, and it's nearly like there's like gi, jiu-jitsu and grappling, and they're two different sports that are evolving.
Maybe I should speak to. I want to finish this up soon, and I know it's late over there, but we were speaking to Robert Drysdale, who's making this documentary about like kind of the history of jiu-jitsu and stuff. And he was talking about how judo and jiu-jitsu at some point were like kind of the same thing, and then because of the change in the rule set, they changed, and now they're like separate sports. And now he's kind of worried that there's jiu-jitsu and submission grappling are kind of like almost going away, and now they're going to be completely separate sports again. Do you see that in the future? Or
I think so. I mean, like even if you look at no-gi worlds finally allowed heel hooks for brown and black belts. So I mean, I feel like IBJJF, the old rule set, no-gi, kind of just crappier jiu-jitsu with bad wrestling. You know, like that's what it was in the past. And it was like majority of clubs will do 2 no-gi sessions a week and the rest is gi. So it was literally all the gi practitioners jumping in and just doing no-gi worlds because that's what they do on Tuesday and Thursday, right? And I think that's changed. I think and it's the same with gi. Like if I jumped into gi worlds right now, I don't think I would get very far, but if I jumped into no-gi worlds, I have a pretty good shot, just because that's what I do mostly. I think it's really changing. I think it's becoming harder and harder to do both, and I think more and more people have to specialize to actually like be really, really successful.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, some people can be amazing at both, but I just think it's getting harder.
Yeah, amazing. I've just got a couple more questions before I let you go. I had loads for you, but we'll run out of time quickly.
Go for it.
What are your own kind of aspirations in jiu-jitsu still? Where do you want to take things?
It's a hard question. Look, it's really hard. There's a few different things happening, and one of them is having a child and not being able to train as well. I'm also 37. I've got a pretty injured knee that I don't have an ACL, so it's getting harder and harder to train the way I want to be competitive at like the highest level, which is what I'm interested in. But at the same time, I still feel like I'm improving a lot and I can be competitive. We do want to, hopefully have another kid as well. So that throws, I don't know if or when that will happen, but that's something to consider as well. And when I'm training really hard, trying to get ready for comp and being really lean, it's probably harder to have a family as well. So look, I don't know. I don't even know about ADCC trials. I haven't fully decided because I don't want to go into something just to make up the numbers. Like if I'm going to go in, it's 100%. So I think I'm going to reassess and see how my body feels and how I'm rolling, and whether competition would be risking further injury to my knee, because at this stage it's kind of like lifelong. When I'm 37, it's no longer like, right, I'll get through to the next comp. It's more like arthritis and not being able to be on the mat for the next 20 years. But if you asked me a year ago, I would have said gi world's medal and medal at ADCC, and hopefully seeing a different weight class than under 60 kilos and over 60 kilos, because I think that's a little bit hard for me. But I haven't fully decided. I think time will tell, maybe in the next 6 months, exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Amazing. Kind of one of the questions we like to wrap the show up with. One of the ones is, for you, if you think about it much, like what does it mean to be a martial artist, and what are the things we're trying to aspire to?
Yeah, that's another interesting one, because I never actually started jiu-jitsu to be like a martial artist, and I became that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I just want to do a sport and choke people sort of thing and learn a skill. So, but I think it's definitely like staying, I don't know, just being a nicer person and staying, I guess, like relaxed in a really pressured environment, and dealing with any anxiety or phobias or whatever you might have. So I think the biggest thing it's taught me is how to, like just stay calm when things don't go your way, and still try to be nice and kind. I don't always succeed, but that's kind of what I'm aiming to do. And I think when I'm on the mat, a much, much, much better person. Like it just completely grounds me, and it's kind of like meditation, isn't it? So like you're completely immersed in a skill, and
I
that's
only noticed that when I've not trained for like 2 weeks. I'm like, wow, I'm really miserable.
yeah,
Like,
you just don't
why?
get that. It's like it's social life, and it's like feeling of accomplishment, and it's like something that keeps me up at night, not in a bad way, but like I can't figure out how to pass this person. How do I solve that problem? Or it's getting ready with your team for a competition, or seeing your friends succeed, or I don't know, seeing the kids, do a takedown. Like
Yeah.
it's all of that. So there's so many cool things about being a martial artist. But I think for me, the biggest thing I've learned is like that calmness, while also being like really fierce and competitive, but also controlling that and controlling the ego too.
So I've just got loads of questions for you, but like, how was your recent trip to I do want to let you go, I promise. There got people coming in for class, but how was your recent trip to Portugal? I saw you got to train with my Professor Victor. That looked awesome.
Victor was, Victor and I met at Copa Podio when I competed in like, I don't know, 2016, I think. And it was, he had some really good training with Lachlan, and he was also an amazing role for me. Actually, Vanessa was going to come and train with me for a weekend in Portugal, but I think with all the lockdowns, it just got a little bit too hard. So yeah, we really enjoyed training at Gracie Barra as well. It was really nice. I got COVID there, so that put me out for a bit. I like retore my ACL hiking, out of all things.
Oh,
so there was a few annoying things, but it was like,
you had a
it was
nightmare getting back home as well, right?
Yeah, we got stuck in Geneva because of like mix up with the testing. So it was nice getting out of Australia again and actually traveling and like feeling like it was kind of pre-pandemic a little bit. But also it's just hard traveling right now, especially with the baby, but also with all the different restrictions, and every airport, every country has different rule set, and it's just really annoying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we love Victor here, and I'm going to get to train with him in Portugal in the summer, because there's like a Gracie Barra summer camp that's going on, so that'll be
Cool.
nice.
You're gonna, yeah.
Just before I let you go, then usually we ask if there's, just like Vanessa recommended for you to come on the podcast. Is there anyone in the jiu-jitsu world? They don't have to be well known. Just maybe someone with a great short story to tell, that we should reach out to. Don't get to pick Lachlan because he's just burnt. Maybe another lady.
Another, who's like a hero of mine is Hillary Williams.
Hillary Williams.
Yeah, so she doesn't compete anymore. Do you know her?
I don't. No.
When I first started, I think she might have just won Black Belt Worlds. And she's now a doctor. She's a neurologist, I believe. She's from the US, and she started jiu-jitsu again like quite late. And I think she got her black belt maybe in 5 or 6 years and won Black Belt Worlds.
Wow.
Might have been like 2011 or 2012, maybe 2011. But she's just very, very clever, and very interesting and super intelligent. And she kind of like, I don't know, I just always thought like, you study medicine. Now she's like a senior neurologist, and
Wow.
she's a black belt, and she's just a very high achiever. And I've always
she sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to reach out to her. I'll find her Instagram and drop her a message.
Awesome.
Well, Professor, thanks so much for doing this, staying up late when you can be relaxing. next time I'm in Australia, I'll definitely come visit you, and I hope you'll
Please
come
do.
visit us when you're next in the UK. Just thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, we'll see you in Australia, hopefully pretty soon.
Amazing. Okay, take care, Professor. Thanks again. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.